Never bury my bones apart from yours, Achilles. Gender and sexuality in ancient Greece, circa 800 to 30 BC. In context, focus, early evidence. Before, circa 2000 BC. The Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh describes a homoerotic friendship between Gilgamesh and the wild man Enkidu. After, 1st century CE, the Warren Cup, a silver Roman drinking vessel produced in the eastern Mediterranean, depicts two male same-sex couples. 5th century, letters from monastic communities in Egypt refer to concerns about women members showing physical desire for other women. 1973, two unmatched skeletons dating to circa 800 BC and lying in an intimate embrace are found at Tepe Hazanlu, Iran. The first work of literature in the pre-classical period of ancient Greece was Homer's Iliad, written around 800 BC. Central to this tale is the relationship between the legendary warriors Achilles and Patroclus. 5 centuries later, under Alexander the Great, Greek territory included modern-day Egypt, the Middle East, Persia, now Iran, and the Himalayas. After his death in 323 BC, the empire split into 4 Hellenistic kingdoms. The kingdom sustained Greek influence in the ancient world for centuries, even after the Roman conquest. It was the ancient Greeks who defined democracy in the classical period, 510 to 323 BC. Though this extended only to male citizens, women and enslaved people were not able to participate in civic life. There were many enslaved people of many races and ethnicities at this time in Greek households and laboring for the state. In the home, enslaved people of any gender were seen as acceptable sexual partners for the men who enslaved them. Pre-classical desire. Evidence for the acceptability of same-sex relationships between non-enslaved women as well as men includes a series of odes written by the poet Alaman in the 7th century BC. Performed by choirs of unmarried young women in Sparta, the poems celebrate the beauty and erotic allure of their fellow girls and of older women, suggesting that female homoerotic desire was widely recognized. This is supported by an image on a plate from there in Greece circa 500 BC, in which two women exchange garlands, while one touches the other's chin, a chin chuck, common depictions of desire used for both different sex and same-sex couples. Sappho, circa 630 to circa 570 BC, who wrote poetry about same-sex desire between women, was known all over ancient Greece. In the 3rd century BC, the Hellenistic poet Gnosis, acknowledges both Aphrodite as her patron goddess and Sappho as her inspiration. By the 6th century BC, the adherents of the cult of Orpheus, a famous poet and musician in the Greek myth, popularized erotic love between men throughout the Greek world. The cult idealized an afterlife full of homosocial and homoerotic interactions for its male followers. Frescoes at tombs across the Greek world appear to support this belief, with paintings from the tomb of the Diver in Paestum, Italy, depicting same-sex couples in a variety of intimate poses. The couples followed the practice of pederasty, a term derived from the Greek pieties children in eros love, one man older and bearded and the young man younger and shaven. The concept of pederasty is a complex and debated aspect of Greek civic life. Sources generally agree that a pederastic relationship was shared between an adult man known as the Erastes and a male youth known as the Eromenos. Like a teacher and his pupil, the relationship was seen to aid the social transition from youth to man and citizen. Ancient Greek literature suggests a young man could be desired as an Eromenos in the onset of puberty, similar to the age at which girls were thought suitable for marriage. Some sources maintain that by the time they had developed a full beard, young men were considered too old to be sexually attractive to other males, with the most desirable age being 16. Nothing is sweeter than desire. All of the delights are second, for my mouth I spit even honey. Gnosis, fragment of a poem. Sexual identities. In classical Greece, the modern idea of fixed sexual identities such as gay or straight did not exist. People may have considered an act same-sex or opposite sex, but individuals were not identified in terms of these acts, even if their preference was clear. Men were expected to marry and father children, but outside marriage there was little discrimination between sex with women or with boys. Men, regardless of who they had sex with, men retained respectability so long as they were the active participant penetrator, regardless of who they had sex with. A man who fit the passive role was thought womanlike and ridiculed. In the few Greek texts we have concerning sex between women, male disapproval stems from women being active participants during intercourse. This was thought to transgress gender norms. Achilles and Patroclus. In male same-sex social life, relationships often showed no real separation between platonic, a friendship not involving sex, and erotic intimacy. While the original text of Homer's Iliad does not make the nature of the shared bond between the warriors Achilles and Patroclus explicit, the deep affection between the pair led ancient philosophers to assume that the two shared a sexual relationship. In a surviving fragment of Myrmidons, one of a trilogy of plays about Achilles by the dramatist Aeschylus, circa 525 to circa 456 BC, Achilles mourned the death of Patroclus by reflecting on the sweet intercourse of thighs that the two shared. Philosophers of the time debated not whether the two were sexually intimate, but rather which role in their pederastic relationship each of the characters played, Eurymenos or Erastes. Alexander and Hephaestion. Alexander the Great, 356 to 323 BC, was ruler of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedon, one of the largest empires in history. Modern historians are divided over the nature of his relationship with his friend Hephaestion, though their intimacy is clear from ancient sources. According to the historian Arrian, 86 to 160 CE, or AD, they placed garlands on the alleged grave of Achilles and Patroclus, symbolizing their romantic relationship, and Alexander told the Persian queen Sisygambis that he too is Alexander. A letter attributed to the philosopher Diogenes, circa 404 to 323 BC, accuses Alexander of being held fast by Hephaestion's thighs. On Hephaestion's death, Alexander wept for days over his beloved's body and extinguished the sacred Persian flame, an act usually reserved for the death of a king. Plato and sexuality. The ancient Greek philosopher Plato, circa 428 to 347 BCE, writes in his Symposium, a collection of drinking party speeches on the nature of love, that Achilles and Patroclus were lovers, but debates the roles they took, Eurymenos or Erastes. He goes on to discuss the relationship between the Athenian Pausanias and his lover, the poet Agathon. While originally in a pederastic relationship, they continued as lovers even after the younger Agathon reached maturity. This practice also appears in the work of Aristotle, 384 to 322 BC, the Greek philosopher and pupil of Plato, where he claimed that if a boy has a pleasing character as well as looks, a pair might continue the relationship. In Plato's Symposium, the Greek comic playwright Aristophanes explained sexual preferences with an allegory in which humans were originally made up of two heads, 4 arms, 4 legs, and 2 sets of genitals. These were either male, female, female. Fearing their power, Zeus, king of the gods, split them in half. Humans have searched for their original other half ever since, leading to different sexual preferences. In Plato's Laws, however, Plato criticizes same-sex intercourse as prioritizing pleasure above self-control, contradicting the natural order where sex is between men and women in order to procreate. Yea, by Ganymedes, or of the fair locks, O Zeus in heaven, thou too hast loved. Telemachus, ancient Greek poet, 3rd century BC. Mythological tales. The stories that the ancient Greeks told about their gods and goddesses demonstrate an awareness of same-sex attraction for men and women. In fact, all major male deities, apart from Ares, god of war, are depicted with male lovers in various myths. One of the most famous is Zeus and Ganymede, a Trojan prince. Zeus was so infatuated that he appeared in the form of an eagle and flew Ganymede up to Mount Olympus so that the prince could be by his side forever as a cupbearer. He remains visible in the stars to this day, represented by the constellation Ganymede in the astrological sign Aquarius. Stories of romantic relationships between women are less common, but the seduction of the nymph Callisto by Zeus was interpreted in classical and Hellenistic literature as evidence of Callisto's sapphic inclinations. When his advances were refused, Zeus disguised himself as the goddess Artemis or Roman Diana, after which Callisto willingly became intimate with her/him. Romantic and sexual relationships between military heroes also feature in tales of the Sacred Band of Thebes, a legendary military unit from the 4th century BC. The unit was allegedly formed of 150 male couples and credited with victories against Sparta's far larger forces. While reports of the unit may not be historically accurate, homoerotic relationships between soldiers were well known and may have been encouraged to forge loyalty, making the existence of the Sacred Band more plausible. Gender nonconformity. Greek mythology also explored the concept of gender identity. Statues of Aphrodite from Cyprus suggest the existence of a cult of a bearded Aphrodite or Aphroditos, in which the goddess is depicted with breasts, penis, and sometimes a beard. In the classical period, depictions of the god or goddess Hermaphroditos were popular. Today they would be probably identified as intersex. The god Dionysus was also the basis of the cult. Said to have been raised a girl, he is also described as womanlike and wearing women's garments in display of early gender nonconformity. Petitioning the gods. In 30 BC, Hellenistic Egypt came under Roman rule, yet its Greek culture endured. Archaeologists have discovered magic charms from the 2nd century AD intended to influence romantic relationships, including same-sex partners. Written on lead or papyrus, the spells name the deity, often a goddess, and the effect the charm should have on the victim. Spells to ensure same-sex partners include a fragment commissioned by a man called Serapiakos, in which he asks that the heart and soul of a man named Ammonios will burn for him.